Meetings afterwards, so we'll get started. I didn't hear from Gail, but she did mention last time that she might have an appointment today, so possibly she won't be here. I'll call the meeting of the Water and Sewer Committee to order. And first on the agenda, I am going to report that Dee Wilson met with Rick Weaver last week at the wastewater treatment plant, and and I can't remember the other gentleman's name that works there, but anyway, they toured the plant, and he was generally pleased with the E&R operational upgrades to the plant. He did state that he would be sending along later to Rick Weaver an assortment of information pertaining to electrical cost savings, tips, and grant opportunities. Second, to date, there are 40 batteries left to be replaced.
Oh, good.
Of this 40, 15 are multi-read units that are on back order. They need an extra part. That part is on back order. But everything is scheduled to be replaced. 13 of this 40 are second notices. People still didn't pay attention to the first green sticker, so they're getting another one. And I don't know after that. And one is scheduled for replacement this afternoon. Okay, the interim committee report that we all looked at and gave Joe comments on has been edited and submitted for introduction at the workshop meeting on September the 9th. And that's all I have. So committee reports. Gail is not here. Barbara.
I have an appointment with Bobby Joe late in September,
Okay.
so that's worked on. And I have a question to ask. If our report is deemed complete today, could we then move on to the mid-range? Or do we have to wait till October?
No, we'll move on.
Oh, good news. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Well, when we get there and talk about fees, I have a comment to make.
Okay.
I'll wait till that subject comes
Okay.
up.
That's it?
Yes.
Okay, next is Don and Joe for the strategic outline.
I just want to update a few things, if that's okay. Thanks for putting me up front here. That's great. I read a number of questions. Henry has been working on those. What they did is they took the questions that I submitted and numbered them. And he's gotten back about a few things. I'll share them with the committee if that's okay with everyone.
That's fine.
Yeah, it essentially sent a rather complicated water consumption graph that I have not yet had a chance to study. It's a 6-page report, so I printed it, that shows water usage. I have an extra copy if somebody wants an extra copy of these. These were used in the last comprehensive study in 2008 for the estimates. In 2008. He's just been reviewing several things. That was given to answer the question, how many units use less than 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 gallons per quarter, trying to figure out the units. He talked about how all our water comes from permitted wells, up to 600,000 gallons a day is what the MDE has permitted us to use. So that's one of the questions that I asked before. We do not have the ability to fill a tanker with clean water from gray water from the wastewater treatment plant. You can't pull a tanker under and fill it from the top, but you can with clean water filled from a hydrant. So I wanted to make that clear because that's been made clear that we could sell clean water. It'd be a little tricky. We'd have to do something in order to allow us to sell gray water if we're going to take it out by tankers. So that was one thing that came up.
May I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
Would we have to deliver gray water? Couldn't they come in with their own truck?
It's not pumped up. It depends on how they fill it. I guess they'd have to pump it themselves. I don't know. But it's not for the normal tankers filled from the top, we don't have the capacity to do that, according to one of the emails we got.
I'm sorry, Don, I just wanted to mention that. If I remember correctly, and then someone please correct me if I'm wrong, I seem to remember Henry saying a couple months ago that once the wastewater treatment plant is upgraded, we will have the capacity to be able to actually sell the water. Or we'll have the, I guess, whatever is needed to fill up the tankers or to actually distribute the water.
I think that's a complicated thing to do, but it's, he said right now, right, as
Right
of
now.
today, you can't fill a standard tanker up with that. He went on to talk about a number of other things. I can tell that he got that together for this meeting, so I have something to say. I appreciate that. There was a lot of questions that were read. Don't have much more to add than that, but they're addressing one by one, and I think that's very helpful to get that data. Hopefully I can get them all. They numbered all the questions, and we can get the answers put on the questions in time so that the answers will be available to this committee and to the city council. But not at this time, they aren't. I just went through some emails just now about 9:15 this morning to try to see which ones. They answered number 4, number 23, and number 25. So there's things they're gathering from various agencies. It's going to be helpful in time to get answers to some of these questions. That takes care of the busyness of the staff that we talked about at the last meeting. So I think it's a good thing we're going through, reviewing some of those things. Don't have much more to report at this meeting because we just came in this morning. I just got those this morning.
Where is this facility, this new $10 million facility? Our,
Wastewater treatment plant?
yeah,
That's where the old one was.
It's,
I don't know where the
Oh.
old one is.
Go back Whippoorwill. At the very end of town.
that's
Yeah.
all I was gonna say, the end of town.
At the end
Other
of
than that, I
town,
can't.
By the
do you know where Jenny Henderson lives?
No.
Okay. It's right there.
Yeah.
Is it on
It's called Whippoorwill Drive. If
Yeah.
you're going towards Emmitsburg,
Emmitsburg.
Oh, Emmitsburg.
Mhm.
yeah, just before you get to the bridge across the Piney,
Oh,
there's a road that goes back to the left.
And you go
follow
left.
that back
Yeah.
and go through a farmer's barnyard and a whole bunch of stuff. And you finally get, it's quite, and you really should go see this place.
I was gonna suggest that
Yeah.
maybe, I would have to clear it. So I'm saying just maybe you all could get a tour of the plant. I had one when I first came on council, so
I've been
Due to the nature.
5 years ago.
Due to the nature of what you guys are doing, you really should visit that.
Yeah.
I'd go again.
Yeah, oh yeah,
You
that's
went?
great.
Yep, I'd go
Okay,
again.
yeah.
I'd be happy
It's
to go
it's
again.
quite interesting.
okay. I think we should.
Yeah.
know what.
They let me
people
walk up to the
talk
top
to
of
us.
the waste
Yeah.
stuff. That
Yeah.
was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know about walking up there anymore. But anyway,
Might do it again.
I will check that and see if that's possible for while this committee is in session, if we can do that. Because you haven't been, correct?
I've requested it.
But you have not
No,
been
not been
there,
allowed to go.
and neither have you two.
Another thing that you really should think about doing is touring all the wells. That's neat. And the plant down here at the end of York Street, to go down, actually go down into that thing. That's amazing what they did compared to the old one. And now, of course, you won't be able to compare it to the old one, but the new facility is really quite a piece of work.
Even if we can't get it, if we can get the tour, even if we can't get it until the actual end of this committee, we'll see. I'll try to make that happen
Well, it also
before we
makes,
issue our final report.
well, it makes us, to the citizens, makes us look like we're trying to figure out what we're doing.
Okay. I will check into that and let everyone know.
I might say, since the gray water was brought up, I went in and Googled it and just to see. And it can be very expensive to people who want to use it. I don't know how expensive it is to buy it, or how would you would charge for it or anything.
Well,
I asked how the county did it, I haven't gotten an answer yet, you know.
the expense comes in, as Don said, how to fill a tanker. You have to have a dedicated tanker, you know, that's all you use it for. And that's where the expense comes in, because there's no way to clean one of those things once you've used it for gray water to then use it for clean water. That's just not done.
All that water goes into Piney Creek now, the effluent that goes in.
After it's treated.
Yeah.
After it's treated, that's what I mean.
But I mean,
Thank you, Carl.
Now, the NSA does it. I don't know how they do it, but that's the government, you know?
And Dryer's Ice Cream too, I know is another one of the companies that purchases gray water.
But I think all the
That would be a
expense
good source to call.
comes in the safety of it. I think that's where all this expense comes.
Yeah, the
Okay.
last thing you want is when you're trying to fill up and it goes all over the place, right?
And like I
Well, the
said, in a
treated gray water
dedicated
is going
tanker.
into the Piney Creek. After the treated water is already going down the creek.
well, I know when we lived
So
in
if it's safe
Sarasota,
enough for the creek, it's probably pretty safe.
when we lived in Sarasota, that they used it for the 2 big golf courses they have down there, ball fields. And there was quite an expense to them installing the dual pipes and so forth,
Exactly.
you know, and the sprinkler system and what have you. And of course, people close by could hook up to it for their lawns and so forth. So that part is what I'm saying is expensive too. And I don't think people in Taneytown or us would really want to do that.
Why don't you call that one dairy?
I'm sorry.
Why don't you call that one dairy that's using it? The people that have a tanker might be willing to establish a route for picking up gray water. If
So-
they bought a truck and tanker and all.
I didn't get into tankers and stuff like that. I mean,
Well, Jackie, you said that the example you had, people were picking up this water that would have been discharged into the creek and using it to water yards. Is that what you just said?
it's a dual pipe system
Mm-hmm.
from the sewage plant and so forth. It was quite expensive to the town, but in that area, you know, up until this year, they had a hard time with water sometimes, the summertime particularly.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's don't think we want to go to any more expense.
Well, the water doesn't cost anything because we're discharging it into Piney Creek. It's safe enough for the creek, therefore it would be safe enough for use in certain areas.
But I mean, to take it from the plant per se and to
Well,
the
the
town.
person who
also.
purchased the water would be responsible for transporting it.
Yes.
No, I'm not talking about transport. I'm talking about dual pipes. We have to fix the good pipes here for the good water, for us for drinking water. In many places, we have pipes that have been here ever since they've been doing this, and everybody doesn't have wells.
I don't see that as feasible right now.
That's what I say.
Exactly, because of the expense.
That's what I say, but I just looked into
It could be a very, very long-range plan.
But having tanker come in, if somebody's already bought a tanker and they're using it, and it sits around 3 days a week, this might be a way for them to use it more days a week.
Well, I didn't mean to prolong it, I just,
No,
No, you
All
do.
discussion is good.
we ended with Don. Were you finished now?
Just a point of clarity,
Okay.
if there's a pipe where the water's coming out clean enough for Piney Creek, it's clean enough for use for various uses like Joe mentioned, and for even your example. And so people that want to transport that could buy that where we don't get anything for it if it goes down the creek now. And that's what we're really talking about. So that's the last thing I'd like to say about that. I don't have many answers to the questions, but I have a couple, and I was happy to get those by today's meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joe, do you have anything?
Just if anybody had any, I guess, final comments or suggestions about the report. I will note that I did change two very small things, and I mentioned this to you, Diane, because we had updated the number of suggestions in the report from 3 to 4. In the introduction, I changed the number from 3 to 4. And then I also included the word mid-range in the introduction as well to illustrate that we have mid-range goals as well. So they're very small changes and they don't affect the overall structure of the report. And that's it for me.
And as I said, those changes were made and given to Clara, so she has them.
That's a good thing. Thank you, Joe, for all that hard work. You did a great job on
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I was happy and honored to be able to help.
I'm not sure I agree with some of them, but that's what was said and decided, so.
And likewise, I can't say what council will agree with or disagree with, but we have presented it and it's for them to decide.
And I just want to thank everybody for the work that you guys have done so far too. I mean, all of you have been incredibly instrumental in this. And again, even though everybody might not agree on every solution, we knew that from the start that we might not agree on everything. The fact that we're presenting anything at all to demonstrate that we're actually, we're serious about this is I think, is certainly a compliment to this committee.
Okay, Jackie, did you have anything additional to add?
Well, I just want to say, I went over your list, and so forth, and talking about the grid. I don't think we want to get into the grid, because this is just to see how we can help people to turn their water back on and not be late. And also it's just another whole big ball game that I don't think we want to get into as this committee. We want to strictly stick to how to help people to save water so they don't have a lesser bill, and as I understood it, and move on from there. Now, we could very easily slip into that as another subject, and which is an immense subject, really, for the county and here. So, that's it.
Oh, Jay, just to clarify, you're saying that we shouldn't discuss the microgrid because you don't think it's...
It's part of this committee's duties. That's another whole new subject.
Okay, so I just want to make sure for the second.
So are you saying even as a long-range goal, you don't think we should get into?
No, I think what you're saying, if I can just sum it up, is that the sustainability of the power for the wastewater treatment plant is not really our primary duty in this committee. We're created as a water to solve those water problems that you're talking about. That is a separate. I agree with you, but that is a separate matter.
And I don't want to get into thinking about a grid because that sends me way off. Well, I mean, it does. It's been many more questions in my mind and so forth.
I understand.
And who's responsible for it, and who's going to pay for it, and that's what bothers me. Who's going to pay for it, and how much it's going to cost, and it's going to cost a hell of a lot of money when we go into it. It'll pay off in the long run. There's no doubt in my mind.
But there is definitely upfront money.
Oh,
Nothing's
man.
free.
Yes. And we don't seem to want to go
We
there.
don't have upfront money, plain and simple.
And I think also, this is kind of getting off subject too for me, we are paying now off what we should have paid off years ago, but we didn't raise the water cost and whatever here. And it's so, we're going back and we're going back to pay for what we haven't paid all along to move forward and look forward to what's coming up, not that we know, but I mean, my God, who of us of older age thought about having a phone that can turn on your stove at home, when you want supper to start. So, there's some more things, and I'm sure we don't know all that. I know I don't. So, it's like going from the cook stove to the electric stove. And into the microwave. That even further, so, anyhow.
You know, it's funny you brought that up, and this is just a quick humorous little aside. My sister has discovered that she can use her old iPhone as like a security camera. So she lives in Baltimore. When she goes after the day, she leaves it on so she can see what her dogs are up to, and I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
And she can turn it on and off with her current phone, so I thought that was kind of amusing.
Yeah, kids aren't going to be able to blame the dog for breaking the lamp anymore when they're home. That happened in my house, so. The other thing I would like to say is, by golly, when I got your note about we sent out 2,699 bills, and supposedly 33 is the number I used that haven't paid their bills, that's really
That's me.
100% of what we're talking about here, and I don't know what's caused the uproar in a sense, but it's good that it did, because now we're
You know,
modern things. So.
That is interesting that you brought that up, because we are talking about a very, very small percent
Yeah, yeah.
that has brought us to where we are.
But it also says we're awake and aware and we're trying to do something.
Yes.
And I agree, those 33 should be paying. You know, I mean, I still want to go back and say, can any of you tell me why they're not paying? You know, but you can't ask them that, and I don't know why. Because of me as a neighbor, I'd almost say to them, even if well, what is the problem that you're not paying it? And then they might have said, well, I have a bad meter, or I don't know how to read my bill, and we might look at them and say, well, you know, if you can afford it, you can reinstall a shower and a toilet and various things. And remember that there's different sizes of families. A family with children and grandmas living there, and a couple, that's 5. Where like in my house, there's only 2. And I guess I'd almost say, okay, if you can't ask them, let's do an audit. And if you really want to get that stickler about it, and audit of who's using what water and how much, and audit of why it's happening.
Well, I heard of one case where the woman lives in Westminster and she got a water bill for $900 for her house in Taneytown. Well, she has signed this house that's up for sale and has a $900 bill on it. She signed it over to her niece or somebody else. So this house is on the market, and who owes that bill for $900? I have no clue. And I can't go back and find them because I was a bystander just listening to this conversation between 2 different people. So there's one case that when the house is sold, eventually, or whenever, I would say that that bill would have to be paid at the time of ownership change.
The bill will be.
It will be.
Mm-hmm.
It would go as a lien.
You know, lean like against
Yeah, against the
that
house.
Yeah.
But who would have ever guessed that?
There are situations like that, and there are situations like people just don't like to pay their bills.
That's
And it's simple.
That's the one I want to add after and grab their ears and shake them. I mean, they should have been taught responsibility. Couldn't they figure that out when they get a job, that there's a responsibility? I mean, what is it? Come out of my generation, you paid your bills, or you didn't do it, or you couldn't have it. I get my air up about it, you know. I mean, if it's somebody like that now, if it's some old lady that only gets so much money a month, you know, through Social Security or whatever, small pension, I am more than sympathetic and try to work with them to lower their bills, you know. But when it comes to these people that just don't worry about it, and we can just put it off and put it off and put it off,
There's some of that.
and dummies should realize it's going to keep adding up. Okay, now that's where I say fine them, and fine them each month, but they don't pay it off.
Yeah.
But all that is contingent upon you trying to find out why they're not paying the bill, right?
Well, if they just don't want to pay the bill, I would give them a big tongue lashing. as a mother.
No,
I don't know, Jackie, why have these, how many did I say it was? Why have these 13 people ignored the green stickers on
That's
the
right.
door?
Ignorance,
You know?
ignorance, not knowing where they could, and why they didn't say something. Who knows?
People are just lazy.
Well, I have no sympathy with lazy people. I'll tell you.
Oh, my. Well, I must,
They might
mine
look at the
must
sin to
Oh,
be
you
lazy.
have to go.
retreat. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
have a 11 o'clock meeting with the
Okay.
Carroll Community School. Mr. Lynn is waiting on me, so thank you for letting me do my report. Thank you.
Okay.
Good to be with you all.
Hey, Ron.
Okay.
Well, I think, sir, Diane, I think you mentioned last week that it would be considered an invasion of privacy for the city to specifically go in and ask somebody why they couldn't pay. But as a neighbor to a neighbor, or as a friend to a friend, what's the delineation on that? If Jackie, for example, was to go find someone and say, hey, what's the problem?
I
Isn't
would
that-
be very diplomatic, believe me, I have that in me besides my little bit of.
I don't know. I have, different people have called me and asked to talk to me about this whole thing. I just met with someone yesterday, and this particular family, I want to say, is 4.5 people because one's a baby. 2 kids, 2 adults, a baby. And their bill runs $500 a quarter. And this woman was doing things to conserve water. She admitted to me they pay their bill, but they are often late. So they pay the bill, they pay the late charges. Her situation was that, she's got a young baby. She hasn't gone back to work yet. There's one income, 2 other kids. But she's doing things to conserve water to lower her bill until such time that she can have an income again.
And she's making a payment.
And she's making her payment.
That's great, that's great.
So everybody's story, I said that to say everybody has a different story.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
And I think that's one of the benefits of sending out.
Now, her
flyer.
concern was that the bill is high, and she fears that she knows it's gonna go higher. And, at what point do what's the breaking point
Yeah.
where the average family can't do this, That was her concern.
No,
But that was also her story. She's
Yeah.
conserving water. The things that she told me she was doing lowered her bill by $100. And that helps.
I mean, just consider what my bill is quarterly and saying what that's not bad at all. That's not bad. Plus, I give her gold stars for making a payment. At least she's trying. But people who just ignore it.
Is she doing it in one bulk payment, or is she on that installment?
She did not realize she could be on the installment. I did inform her of that. I informed her she could pay monthly, and she did not know that.
Gotcha.
Well, that's a real plus.
And I think that's going to be one of the benefits of the
Right.
flyer, that if we send that out, because that will alert people that, hey, you have this option, so that the people like you're talking about who are struggling but who are doing their best to stay on target with the payments will realize, hey, there is a form of relief here.
And I understand that, and I'm with them. I've worked with them like you worked with her and so forth, and that's what I mean. To find out what, and then okay, well let's work this way, or I might even get to the point, where somebody's sick and this, that, and the other, and I'm a new person there, I might even pay the damn bill. Not that I'm filthy rich or anything like that, but I can pay my bills, and out of the kindness of my heart, I do have a heart.
Well, as long as we're on late fees, this 10% late fee, I feel, is way high, according to, if they keep paying late, it isn't gonna whip them around anyway. And in 2.5 years, that's 10 billings, they would have increased their bill 100%. And do we charge interest on that, or is it compound interest? And if so, this is what the credit cards are doing and student fees are doing. And it seemed to be the late fee should be something to tick their brain. And if they're just going to keep paying it, doing it every quarter, the late fee isn't helping them. And we need to kind of somehow have the late fee just cover the cost of a letter or time or something. And that's what I want to talk to Bobby Joe about is how much do we keep adding that late fee onto the bill and keep compounding it, or just how we do it?
Okay.
Well, there seems to be two fees, doesn't it? As I think you said, it was so much to turn it back on also.
Yeah.
How much is it to turn it back on? Is that a set fee or is that a percentage?
That's a set fee.
And how much is that?
Not.
It's $50, I think.
Is it 50? Okay. Somehow that stuck in my brain, I wasn't sure.
Maybe that's too high.
Okay, I'll
That is
ask about
typical
that
for
too.
most municipalities.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can
That is very
remember it being that in Baltimore City.
Down in North Carolina, it's higher in many places.
Well, I'm just thinking about it'd be fine to turn it off and then be fine to turn it back on. In some cases, we may want to, like my little old lady who doesn't get that income in the month, that for the little old man, doesn't get that kind of income.
It's kind of like shooting ourselves in the foot if we want them to start using their water and paying their bills.
So maybe a process by which somebody could ask for a waiver for the fee? Like if they were to call the office and say, hey, I had a really hard month, or hey, I've been ill and I haven't been able to work, or I'm on a fixed income, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you mean that kind of a process, or waiving the fee, like just getting rid of the connection fee altogether?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it.
Okay.
Diane,
I don't know, sometimes with other companies, they'll give you a one-time waiver a year on certain things of a late fee. Is that maybe what you're thinking?
I'm thinking of that, not people that are consistently
Habitually,
over
right.
and over and over,
Mhm.
and they play the system.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I think that's about all we have today since Gail is not here to give us her update. She did everybody get her
Yes.
price list from Lowe's? Okay. Okay. Gentlemen. Carl. I'm sorry, Carl.
Jackie, I think you hit the nail right on the head. We've made a great tempest about something that didn't need a big tempest here.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great political move, and we could something to talk about. But by the time all the dust settles, we'll be back to where we were. And for some reason, no one seems to think that the group has been here for years hasn't looked at most of this stuff already. We have. And sometimes we get our backs against the wall because thank you, the state or whoever else. But all of this stuff has been considered. I think you folks have come up, and I'm not trying to belittle what you're doing. I think what you're doing has been good, and there's been some really good thoughts that came up. But this isn't something that we're going to re-engineer in 2 months. It's just no way. And we can't start doing a little bit here and a little bit there, and then all of a sudden everyone starts playing the game. That's what this is. We're still going to have those same 33 people that we've had for 10 years not paying their bills, and that's a little bad.
Is that a good round number?
That's probably pretty close to where we...
Yeah.
I mean, you get times, economic times, like since 08 and such,
Well, yeah.
where it's been bad. But people tend to suck it up and go through it. And none of us wanted to raise these rates. But when you're faced with millions of dollars of bills not created by anyone in this town, but handed to us, you've got to pay for them. But I do applaud what you're doing.
Well, that's what I think, and when I figured the numbers out, I said,
Yeah.
and then I come on.
Yes.
Personally, I felt it was a political, but I didn't want to bring that up because then we might get into politics and I didn't want to.
Yeah, well, you're right, but
You're
we have to-
right, it is,
yeah.
it was.
And,
It is.
so-
You have to
but
be
it's-
very realistic in looking at this stuff, because there's two sides to every story. And I don't think there's a council in, certainly this county, or this state really, that would put onerous bills on any part of the population.
Yeah, don't want to do that.
They don't, but sometimes it happens, unfortunately.
And then, of course, the thing that Diane mentioned last week, that in the budget, they allowed $40,000 for such things, then, no, we didn't look at that before we started, basically.
Because you know about those 33 people.
Yeah.
They're not gonna pay 40,000 in fees if they're not gonna pay their bill.
Well,
And-
I'm sorry, I've got to just say something real quick. I mean, I know Don, his heart is really behind trying to bring relief to people. And I know from my own perspective that when I ran, it wasn't a question of politics at all, but a genuine desire to try to help.
To try to do that.
So I respectfully disagree with the assertion that it's just all political.
But that's what this Pius thing was. He's starting to learn where the walls are. And, had he done what Henry suggested for him to do to begin with, really immerse himself in the fact, we wouldn't have been in this situation. You already knew, and I'll give you a lot of credit, you've grown an awful lot in the 2 years you've been on your slot, or the last couple of years here that we've chased this. And everyone's trying. But as someone said here a while ago about shooting yourself in the foot, you can do it in more ways than one. You really have to be careful with what you're doing.
But I think the short suit is in this, when there's public unhappiness, like when a raise comes out, it must be addressed. And I think the short suit is between the council or any action and how to get it out to the public. Because our newspaper only comes out every 2 months.
Well, education is key.
Yes.
Just like the lady I spoke to yesterday that didn't know the certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else we educate people. I've often said you could skywrite it and people wouldn't look up.
That's for sure.
So,
And none of these meetings are closed.
exactly.
We go through 3 or 4 months of budget meetings every year. And they are
And now
all-
everything's taped and televised, so you don't have to physically come.
Well, I have a couple friends that have started watching the council meetings, and they said, oh, we're gonna go back because we don't know what you're talking about, and go back, and they said, when you really sit down and watch them, it's interesting.
And also, the few people that read the record have complimented the mayor on his water article. People have said to him, now I understand.
And now it's online, so they can read that too.
Yeah.
So if you can come up with some more ways to educate people, I'd be very interested. Because I think that's key.
Well, the woman you talk to will talk to 2 neighbors. And so the people I talk to will talk to 2.
That's
And
it.
it's just, we have to keep trying.
Okay.
You're half right with that comment, but the problem there is it turns into the telephone game. And all of a sudden, what you said to that person becomes an entirely different thing down the street.
Oh, you talk about gossip?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that people don't remember the facts, right? Or they only
Right.
remember the facts they want to remember.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, everything's misconstrued, and you're back before square one at that point, because now you have a whole different set of facts that are nowhere close to accurate, and people are going to take those as word.
Well, that's humanity.
It is humanity, absolutely, but that's the downside of that. The only other thing I wanted to say was, you're talking about the late fees and the fines. if you want to encourage people to pay their bill, you don't get rid of the consequences. That's the incentive. If you pay your bill, then you won't have to pay these things. That's the whole point of fines and late fees. It's not there as a money-making venture. It's there as a, look, you don't have to pay them. We're not going to make you pay them. All you have to do is pay by this date. That's all you have to do. If you want to encourage people to pay their bill, you need to leave the consequences in. It stinks. Everyone hates the
Yeah,
consequences.
instead of having 33, now you got 63.
Yeah, you're only looking at 1 or 2% of the city that are.
And I fear that with these green stickers, they're gonna have to actually shut the water off to get these people's attention.
And they should.
But the point of the green stickers is that we try.
Exactly.
Yeah, But we've tried to do our part of
Mhm.
things, and then at a certain point, we do have to say, hey, you know.
The town can't babysit these people. That's not what life's all about.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the government should stay out of things as much as they can.
And that's where we blur the line by being both government and utility. That's where it gets a little blurry.
Mhm.
Okay.
Cool. Congratulations, guys. You have a meeting next week?
Yes. Same time, same place.
Same thing.
Carl, you said something last week about discussions about this gray water. Years ago, they had.
We've had some discussions on.
We have, a few
Yeah.
years back,
Yeah,
And
we
what,
did.
anything different come out of it?
Not really, we didn't go all that far in the thing. That becomes a whole subset of things, and you know, how you're going to do it, what you're going to do with it. It's not quite as simple as Don makes it appear. The water that goes into the creek, you realize in 2 days from now becomes Frederick's drinking water.
That's their recharge.
Yeah, that's their recharge. So we have to have it to a certain level. That's what all this recent business and then millions of dollars with the plant out there is all about. Because we need to get more of this out. We need to get more out for the bay. Of course, the bay will stay the bay until we finally do something with the Susquehanna River. Plain and simple. That's what that's all about. But, you know, and you guys really need, when you can,
That's why I said we'll do
you
it when we
need to
can.
go out to that plant. If you've never seen it, it's gonna blow your mind. Because it isn't a little building the size of this room. This thing is massive. This thing is, we really owe people, many years ago when that thing was put in, a lot of credit because they built more than they needed at that time. And had they not, we'd be facing a lot more than 8 or 9 million now. We'd be facing probably 15, 16, 17 million.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it really
This
makes you
from
feel good.
anybody, or are you taking it, or
No, it's not used, so.
is this not you?
Okay, I'm going to see you later.
See you, Carl.
Bye, Carl, thank you.